I was making dinner when my wife Sarah burst through the front door, practically glowing with excitement, a bottle of champagne in her hand. "David! I got it! I got the promotion!" she announced, spinning around our kitchen like she'd won the lottery. "Regional director. 6-figure salary. Corner office. Everything we've been working toward." I looked up from the salmon I was preparing, noting her flushed cheeks, her slightly rumpled blouse, the faint smell of men's cologne that wasn't mine. "That's wonderful news," I said, reaching for champagne glasses. "I know how hard you've been working with Mr. Rodriguez on that presentation." "Robert's been incredible," she gushed, her eyes bright with what I now recognized wasn't just professional excitement. "He really went to bat for me with the executive committee. Said I was exactly what the company needed." I popped the champagne cork and poured 2 glasses, handing her one with a smile. "To your success," I said, raising my glass. "You've earned this." What Sarah didn't know was that she'd earned something very different, and Robert Rodriguez was about to learn that sleeping with married subordinates comes with career-ending consequences. Let me explain how a woman who thought she'd slept her way to the top ended up destroying both her career and her lover's future in a single, perfectly timed corporate scandal. My name is David Park, and I spent 15 years in corporate human resources before transitioning to employment law. When companies need someone who understands workplace policies, documentation requirements, and the legal implications of executive misconduct, they call me. More importantly, I know exactly how corporate ethics investigations work, what evidence HR requires, and how workplace affairs get handled when they violate company policy. Sarah had been working late with her regional manager Robert Rodriguez for 3 months, claiming they were collaborating on a major restructuring proposal that would position her for promotion. Her sudden enthusiasm for after-hours meetings, weekend strategy sessions, and business dinners had been impressive, until I started documenting the pattern. Hotel receipts charged to the company credit card for client meetings in cities where we had no clients. Restaurant bills for 2 during hours when Sarah claimed to be working alone on budget analyses. Most revealing of all, security badge data showing Sarah and Robert entering and leaving the office building within minutes of each other, always after normal business hours. But the real confirmation came when I found the text messages. Sarah had been careless with her phone, leaving it unlocked while showering after her late strategy sessions with Robert. The conversation history was comprehensive, explicit messages about their affair, discussions of how Robert could manipulate the promotion process in her favor, and most damning, detailed plans for how they'd handle their relationship once she was promoted to a position where their affair would be harder to detect. Rather than confront them directly, I'd started building a case. What Sarah and Robert didn't realize was that their company had recently implemented a zero-tolerance policy regarding workplace relationships between supervisors and subordinates, especially when those relationships influenced hiring, promotion, or compensation decisions. More importantly, both Sarah and Robert had signed acknowledgement forms confirming they understood that violating these policies would result in immediate termination for both parties involved. While Sarah was celebrating her promotion, I was uploading 6 months of evidence to the company's anonymous ethics hotline. The package was comprehensive: photographs of Sarah and Robert entering hotels together, copies of their explicit text message exchanges, documentation of company resources being used to fund their affair, and a detailed timeline showing how their relationship correlated directly with Sarah's sudden career advancement. But the masterpiece was the timing. Sarah's promotion was announced on Friday. The company had planned a celebration, press releases, introductions to key clients. Sarah spent the weekend shopping for professional wardrobe pieces befitting her new executive status. On Monday morning, she arrived at the office ready to assume her new role as regional director. At 9:17 a.m., both Sarah and Robert were called into separate meetings with HR and the company's legal counsel. At 9:43 a.m., Sarah called me from her car, sobbing. "David, they fired me. They fired Robert too. They said we violated the ethics policy." I was reviewing contracts in my home office, sipping coffee and watching the news. "That sounds serious," I said calmly. "What ethics policy?" "The one about workplace relationships." "But how did they find out?" "We were so careful." "Were you?" "Someone sent them evidence. Photos, text messages, hotel records." "David, they have everything. That must be very uncomfortable for you." "I don't understand how this happened." Robert said no one suspected anything. He promised me this promotion was legitimate, that our relationship had nothing to do with it. "And you believed him?" The silence stretched for nearly a minute as she processed what I already knew, that Robert Rodriguez had made identical promises to at least 2 other female employees over the past 5 years, all of whom had received promotions during their affairs with him, and all of whom had eventually been quietly transferred or encouraged to resign. "My career is over," she whispered finally. "Most likely." The company said they're considering legal action for misuse of corporate resources. Robert won't return my calls. I think he's going to claim I seduced him to get the promotion. That would be consistent with his pattern. By Wednesday, both Sarah and Robert were terminated for gross misconduct. By Friday, word had spread through their industry network, a small community where everyone knows everyone else's business. Sarah spent the following months working temporary administrative positions, her executive career effectively finished. Robert Rodriguez was forced to relocate to a different state, his reputation destroyed in a profession where trust and integrity are paramount. Meanwhile, I'd quietly started divorce proceedings, using the documented evidence of Sarah's affair to ensure a fault-based dissolution that protected my assets and reputation. Sometimes the most satisfying revenge isn't what you do to someone. It's watching them destroy themselves by violating policies they agreed to follow while thinking they were too clever to get caught.